Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics. We recently introduced you to this beautiful block of the month quilt called A Joyful Noel. I love the big, beautiful church with that winter scene. It's just embracing everything about Christmas. I love it. This is designed by Deb Grogan of A Quilt Factory, The Quilt Factory, I should say. And Deb is an incredible artist, and bless her heart, she has allowed us to offer this to our customers as pre-fused and laser cut applique. And when we look at the intricacies of this quilt, you will see what a blessing it is indeed to have all of these amazing applique shapes already cut out for you. So you can just focus on the fun. Let us do the heavy lifting. Because as we look around this amazing quilt, starting with the block we'll be talking about today, that block in the upper left corner that says Joyful and Noel, you don't have to trace and cut that out. These intricate snowflakes, you don't have to trace and cut that out. We're going to do that for you. So what we're covering today is how do you perhaps use these layout diagrams in combination with these applique shapes and the background to put all of this together. So once it's put down to the background, we now are just off to stitching those shapes down, and we continue that process until we have all of the interior quilt put together. And then we move on to our inner border, our outer border, and you can see there's even some interesting applique in the outer border. So many times by the time you get to the outer border, kind of the excitement of applique has ended. And I think this is something about Deb Grogan that I think is so endearing. She doesn't let the fun stop in the middle of the quilt. She carries it through. So we have a beautiful lamp here, and we also have some poinsettias and kind of holly and berries in the corners to just keep the excitement going all the way to the edge of this quilt. Now, if you're just now watching and you don't have your spot, I would say stop right now and get to the website. There's very limited space remaining. This is a tutorial really to kind of just step you through that process of, again, taking applique shapes and how do we use these layout diagrams to put everything together so the registration is exactly where we hope it will be before we move on to stitching things down. So if you haven't already grabbed that spot, get to the website to get one of those remaining spots and take a friend with you. This is our backing fabric. I'm hoping when you get to the website, there'll be a backing available for you as well. And that's the thread set. Other things like the embroidery floss and buttons will all be included. So those are your options. Getting your spot, obviously very important. Grabbing your backing, also quite important. And that's the thread set. So those are your options. So let's talk about when you do grab your spot and you get that shipment, what are you going to be getting? Of course, you'll be getting Deb's pattern. Each time you get a shipment, you'll be getting a portion of that pattern, which I like. I like getting just one thing to focus on, one set of instructions, one set of fabric. That's what I'm focusing on right now. And then the next month, we continue with that process. A new part of the pattern, obviously new backgrounds, new shapes, and so on and so forth. So you'll, of course, be getting Deb's patterns where she's telling you what size to be cutting these background fabrics to. You'll also be getting some shapes that are reversed for fusible applique. You can ignore that. This pattern is written for someone that just picks up the pattern, goes and chooses their own fabric, and has to now trace and cut all this out themselves. Can you imagine how much work and how intricate and not so much fun that can be, especially as it kind of drags on? So if you are in our program, and most likely you are or will soon be, you can just ignore these templates and go, that's not me. I'm moving on to these other pages at the end. These pages say a lot of fun. These other pages say a lot of work, right? So what you will be getting instead, if you are in our program, is layout diagrams 1 and 2. Notice it's no longer reflected on the wrong side. We flip that over. That's what you're getting. And you can see there's registration marks. Simply line those up. If you've got a light box, and I will be definitely encouraging you to use some kind of a light box. We're going to be looking through a lot of black fabric. that means a light box is really going to be important on this. When we have lighter colored backgrounds, we can usually see through lighter colored backgrounds to our diagram to see where things go. When we have a dark and very dramatic background, it can be very challenging to see through the background to see where shapes go, but we'll touch on that in just a bit. But of course, if you've got your light box, turn your light on, get everything lined up beautifully, and simply tape your pages together. Easy peasy, right? Notice there's a vertical line dashed, horizontal line dashed, and there's some dashed lines here. The dashed lines above and below are your background fabric sizes. So in this particular case, my background I know is cut 14.5 inches high. I would encourage you to go ahead and cut your backgrounds to the exact size inside this pattern versus leaving them oversized. That way you're really just fitting things right inside a puzzle, laying it straight down. Again, I'll be demonstrating that here shortly when we begin to lay out our shapes on the black background. We'll be dimming the studio lights to almost dark so we can see the beautiful illumination of the Wafer 3 light box. This is the largest size because some of these blocks are so large. If you're in love with applique, this is a significant investment, no question, but it's the best on the market. I've used this for year after year after year with consistent results, and having everything perfectly registered, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's a one-time investment for everything to be exactly. Being able to have that visibility means you can be accurate, and that's what we're all after. So anytime you have shapes that overlap, like here on this cardinal, I don't want to put my black fabric down, lower my studio lights, and build this one by one. No way. I want to be able to build that now without having to look through black fabric to see it. So my first step here will be to get my iron heating up to a medium heat. As quilters, we're so used to that full hot setting. It's different when we're doing fusible applique, which far prefers a medium heat. So when you get the shapes that are in your kit, and I'm going to take this one away because I have already pre-taped a set for us that we'll be able to use. When we have our page ready to go, and let's just look at these shapes. So I can see K1, H2, N1, P1. That doesn't necessarily mean too much to me right now because, again, we've already cut these shapes out for you. But if you look at this, we can easily see that the first piece that needs to go down here is likely to be, right, the base of our bird. And we can always refer to our diagram here. Remembering that the dashed lines mean that that shape lies beneath. So the K1 would go down first, and we could put our wing on, we could put this part of our bird on, and then this part. Now, your shapes will have a paper backing. Give it a good crease, don't be shy, and we're going to remove that paper. So how do we bring these 4 shapes together to merge them into one ahead of time? And you'll do that every time you can. Now, before I even go through that process, you can see here with this kind of branch and this kind of holly and ivy, there's not that much overlap. These shapes, the Noel, joyful, these here will be applying directly to the background. But every time we have some significant overlap, we're going to pre-assemble that and set that aside. We're absolutely going to be doing that with our windows and the window frames. We're going to be doing that process with our snowman, so all the juxtaposition is exactly where it would be. Now, the part of the magic, the light box is a big part of that. The layout diagram is also a big part, but this is the magic. I have used so many different types of applique sheets, mats. This is the one. Comes in 2 different sizes, and I'm going to use the size that fits my project right now. For a larger piece, such as the church, I'm going to be using my larger Applefuse mat because I want to be able to get as much on that as possible. That's a big piece right there. So if you do a lot of applique and you do different sizes, small and large, you might want to have both sizes. Okay, let's just place our bird down, and I'm going to now turn the light box on. Now, because I am not looking through black fabric, even with the light box off, I can see where shapes go. I can see the wing, I can see that there. But if I've got a light box, why not take advantage of it? Why not turn the lights on, right? Literally. Let's put the wing on. And we have this part right there. Okay, now, once you're happy with that, you have to move this. Have to move it. I don't need to worry about ironing the tail of my bird down. This is the part that's being merged. So I'm just going to lay this on top of that, 5-6 seconds. Don't do this. I've done it all. I've made all these mistakes. Just got in that kind of mode of like I've been ironing clothes. Just let the iron work its magic. Okay. Now, let that cool. Have I pulled these up too soon and now this whole thing's falling? Of course I have. You know I wouldn't ask you if I hadn't already done all of these things. We're going to let that cool. Here's what we're going to do in the meantime, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do before we lower the studio lights. Our background fabric, remember how I said I recommend that you go ahead and cut your background fabric to the exact sizes that are included in this pattern. Don't leave it oversized. Why is that? That way, when I have that dash line on the top and the dash line on the bottom, I know I'm in the right spot, right? I know I'm in the right spot. For some of the blocks, especially the blocks that are so massive, some of the block diagrams, some of the fabric extends beyond the diagram, I should say. So you're going to want to be mindful when you cut your backgrounds to the size inside that month's patterns. We have a dash line to indicate that's the center of that background shape. So in this instance, I took my background after I cut it to the exact sizes, folded in half, and I gave a really good crease. And I had a marking pen, there it is. And just so that I don't miss it, mark it. And this is just an erasable little sew line marking pen. The reason I'm doing that, and I'm kind of lining it up, I can see here and I can see here. Now I'm going to scoot that up. Because, and we just happen to be on the same edge of the paper, but there may be blocks where your background's extending past your diagram. Again, just find the center. Okay, what we're going to do is basically, let me roll this down so you can see it. Can you imagine cutting this by hand? I can't. That's not fun, by the way. Inside cuts and having it be so smooth and beautiful. What we're basically doing at this point is using the illumination of the light box to light from underneath with a very dim room. Try to be in a room with no windows and the lights off. Night's great. With your diagram and your background exactly where it is, your iron's heating up to a medium heat, and be ready to transfer. Be ready to transfer to an ironing board or wool pressing mat. And you might want to work in sections. Don't think you're going to lay all of this out and then move it. And why? Right? It's supposed to be fun. Maybe you want to work on just this section. That's fine. Iron it down. Then come back. Maybe you want to do joyful. Iron it down and come back. However you want to do that. And we're just going to start. I'll show you some of the shapes that we're going to be working with here. Right? These are the types of shapes that we will be laying down. And you can see, because there's no overlap here, using the Amplifuse mat makes no sense. That's why these have to go directly onto the background, whereas overlapping applique shapes can be merged in advance. We let them cool. We simply remove this and look at that. Is that unbelievable? No one wants to bring these to the background one by one. I did that stuff before, and you know what? Most of the time I missed it. I was off a bit. I was just off a bit. Having that pre-merged means now I don't have to wonder. That bird is absolutely on the money. It's beautiful. All right, we're gonna dim the lights. We're gonna just start putting some shapes down so you understand the visual picture. And then we'll move on to just touching a little bit on hand embroidery. There's a little bit of a French knot here and a back stitch, easy peasy. In Deb's pattern, she had embroidered snowflakes. We said, Deb, you know what? Our customers would really love to have an intricate glitter laser cut snowflake instead. That's beautiful. I don't have to worry about the hand embroidery. If you're like, nope, I love hand embroidery, you could maybe keep your snowflakes for another project, and you can do this embroidery that I'll be touching on with the backstitch after we do the applique here. But I just wanted to mention to you that there's a difference here. We kind of decided to take the pattern to yet another level because we know our customers love the laser shapes. Okay, we're gonna dim the lights, and I'm just gonna start laying out some shapes so you can just kind of see the process. So you can see, I can see through, and you could start wherever you want. You can start wherever you want. You wanna start up in the corner to lay out that branch and the leaves. This is just the process, right? Laying everything out. Pretty sure these leaves are all kind of the same size. And then we do joyful just because it's so beautiful. The more intricate the shape, the more I really appreciate laser cut. Oh my gosh. You know, I once heard someone at a quilt show. We were a vendor at a quilt show. I think it was Road to California. And someone said, and this was a long time ago, so I'll give her a little grace. Laser cut is cheating. And you know what I loved? The customer right next to her said, oh honey, laser cut means finished. And I thought, she's exactly right. We don't need to shame each other just because we didn't go through the misery of tracing this out by hand, right? The point is to have fun doing the craft we love. And of course, you're going to continue. Now, just for the fun of it, look at where the bird would go here. I can just lay that bird right out. And you continue on, laying your shapes out until you're comfortable. You're like, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to now move this over to my ironing board or wool pressing mat, whatever you have, and simply place that iron in each location, 5 to 6 seconds, just like I did. That's it. And simply let everything cool down, and then you'll stitch that down with a thread set. Isn't that an